right now, I'm going to tell you about 5 things that are killing Hollywood movies. Now, I know it's going to be a list of 5, but I do have one extra one that needs to be added there. Anything that's hurting Hollywood can be fixed. You stop giving them your money, and they will get hurt. You hit them where it hurts by not giving them your money. So, for instance, if there's something wrong with Hollywood, you stop going, they're going to find out what that thing is. Maybe they have to take a step back, look at themselves, what they're doing wrong, or maybe they just have to try to figure out what you want. That's the thing. It's either what they're doing or it's not what you're getting. One of the two is always going to be wrong. So, why is it your fault that there are problems with Hollywood? Well, people today seem to go to the movie like it's a hobby or a social activity. Maybe part of that is due to social media. People will maybe make a post saying, hey, let's go to the movies this weekend, or hey, I'm excited about this movie. And because of social media, people are so much more aware of a movie that's coming out that people will sometimes just watch the movie because they think, oh, can it really be this shitty? I'm going to go see it. For instance, when Batman vs. Superman came out, a lot of people felt like it was going to be shitty, but they went and watched it anyways. Another good one is Ghostbusters with the females. Everybody was shitting on that movie, saying the trailer was so terrible. The trailer had more thumbs down than most movies made recently. But the movie still made a ton of money because people get curious and they want to watch it. But when you're curious, you shouldn't give money to give money to this thing, because when you give money to it, whether you're curious or not, all Hollywood sees is, hey, this movie's making money. We're doing something right. So, don't watch movies out of curiosity. Don't watch movies because it's fun to see a terrible movie, because that's what video rentals are for. Or we don't really do rentals anymore. Blockbuster's dead. Hollywood Video's dead. That's what home video is for. That's what your friend's video. You borrow your friend's video. You don't give Hollywood any money. You're not giving your friend money. It's not making money. It's just free. So when you are interested in watching a shitty movie, you should never go to the theaters to pay for it. Going to the theater isn't cheap. That's a lot of money that you're putting towards them. That's like the cost of a movie ticket is what most people make in an hour of work, I think, especially around our age, early 20s, late teens. So don't go to the movie theaters because you want to see a movie, be shitty. Just wait. All right, so let's start the list. In no particular order. We'll start at 5. The miscasting of actors. Why is this a problem? Back in the day when movies were really, trying to become an art form, they would cast people who deserved the part. They would cast people who had some talent or really good at acting, right? Today, actors are casted because they're friends with the director. Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, that's a big thing, even though luckily Johnny Depp is a good actor. He's just one example of many, though, that when the director is friends with somebody or has a connection, or maybe they owe a favor, they put this person in the movie. Or maybe they put an actor in the movie because he's popular, right? Chris Pratt, huh? Or maybe they put an actress in the movie because she's very beautiful. Most of them. And they don't really have any kind of acting talent. They're just put in there because they think, whoa, they're popular with people. So maybe if this actor's popular with people, they'll go to see the movie because the actor's in it. And that's not how it is. I mean, there's a whole bunch of movies where it has a huge cast of actors, maybe a bunch of famous actors, but the movie bombs. We all remember the movie, or maybe not. I remember the movie 43. That movie had so many celebrities in it and so many famous actors, and it bombed. You remember those movies, disaster movie or epic movie. Those movies always have a lot of famous actors in it, but they don't make a lot of money. They really don't make any money because the actor doesn't make the movie. It's a whole puzzle. The actor is just one part of it. And yeah, sometimes the actor can save the movie. The actor can make the movie. Maybe the plot is simple, but the actor just does it so well. That doesn't happen all the time, and you can't do that. You can't just put faith in that happening because it might not. So don't just put an actor in the movie because the actor's pretty or good looking or you're friends with him. You have to think about the audience. Think about what the audience wants. Don't think about what you want. Number 2 on the list. The problem with Hollywood is the overuse of CGI. I've talked about this before, and I'm sure we all know about it. CGI is made to enhance the movie. You're supposed to use CGI when it can't be displayed through animatronics. You can't build the set, right? You use CGI to enhance it. And you look at a lot of movies the way that they do it the right way. For example, let's talk about X-Men Days of Future Past. In the future sequences where the X-Men are in this future world, the set, the immediate surrounding is built. It's a built set. Or like in the case of Cerebro, right? Cerebro, this part is a built set, the surrounding, the part that you can see, right, in the immediate space. Then there's green screen around on the up top and on the bottom, because they're not going to build a gigantic room like that. But the CGI enhances what's already there. That's the way CGI is supposed to be. But today you see movies, they just throw in CGI out of laziness, right? I don't remember what movie it was recently. Let's think about the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, right, where he fights the bear. Understandable. You're not going to have a real bear beat up Leonardo DiCaprio. But you could put the bear, like a real bear, in some scenes where maybe the bear is just walking around. Or, a big cliche now is deer, right? There's always a scene in movies that take place in the woods. Not always, but many times there's a scene in the woods and you see a deer or you see some little forest animal. They CGI it now. It's like you really couldn't find a deer. You really didn't want to just pay a few extra dollars to just get someone to bring a deer on the set. Or recently I saw a movie with a wolf. Like, there's wolves all over the zoos. You couldn't just get a wolf. You couldn't just film a wolf. You had to CGI a wolf. And sometimes CGI is so good you can't really tell it's CGI. Sometimes. But then you have like the CGI where the coloring's off, the contrast is off. You can tell that the wolf is not really there. You can tell that this creature is not really there. That this thing is animated. You can tell. Some people can't, but some people can. And when you can tell, it really takes you out of the movie. You go, oh, okay, this is a movie. And, well, that's not the problem so much if you're in the theater, because the theater, the resolution is not great. It's not as high as home video resolution or 4K televisions or retina displays, but you can still see, and it's still a problem. It shows laziness. You watch Jurassic Park, the original. You watch Jurassic Park, and it still looks really real because the dinosaurs were actually built. They actually took the time to get artists and these talented people to create this creature. And so while there are some scenes where the T-Rex is running around, you can't build an animatronic to do that, not back then, not without putting forth a great deal of effort. And it's understandable. But the scenes where the T-Rex is biting through the top of the Jeep, or where he's moving the car with his face, or her face, that dinosaur was real, and it looked real. So you watch the movie today, and it doesn't look fake. Like, so you watch some old movies, you go, oh, look how terrible that looked. Today, Jurassic Park, the original, holds up because they actually built it. And actually building something is always going to look better than CGI. Not always, but most of the time, it's going to look better. So, overuse of CGI is a big problem. Number 3, I think it's a problem, but this is my list, so there you go. Lame theater laughs. Now, when I think of lame theater laughs, I think of Marvel movies. I think of superhero movies, where they put in some cheesy joke or some lame situational humor that you would only really probably laugh at once, and then you're done, right? Example, Doctor Strange. They had that scene with the Chinese guy, Wong. He's supposed to be this big, intimidating, warrior, monk-ish type of character, right? And he's listening to Beyonce. And it's one of those things where people in the theater go, oh, that's funny. But you watch it a second time and it's not funny. And I personally didn't find it funny the first time, right? When I see this big tough guy listening to Beyonce, automatically he's not tough in my book. He's not a tough guy anymore. I don't know why they couldn't have had all the other kinds of artists of today. Like if you want to do something current, right? You want to touch people. Oh, look, that's current. That's hip. That's a sign of the times. You fine. You can do that. But there are other artists you can use. Why does it got to be Beyonce? Why couldn't it be at least a man? Why couldn't it be a rock group or a metal group? Why does it have to be pop or whatever she is? And why does it have to be a female? And what a song to use too. It's like, it's just cheesy. This is a superhero movie. These are supposed to be the badasses of our childhood. These are supposed to be like gods and demigods and these creatures that are just beyond us, right? They're the defenders of the universe, really. And you have them listening to girly music. I don't like it. And that's just one example. You look at Thor Ragnarok. The world is supposed to be ending for these people. It's Ragnarok. It's the end of everything. And you have them cracking jokes. It's like, if I have these people trying to defend the universe and they're cracking jokes with each other and they still find the time to make, to try to be funny, it's like, can we find someone better to protect us that they're making jokes? Another example is the new Justice League movie. The first Batman vs. Superman, that was supposedly the first DC Universe movie. And I liked it. I liked that it was very dark and gritty. And there was a huge backlash that, it's too dark, it's too gritty, there's no humor in it. So Justice League made an effort to marvel it up. And Suicide Squad did it too, from what I heard. It was originally very dark, and they had to put in reshoots and recuts to make it funnier. And in my opinion, it just ruins the movie. Superhero movies are supposed to be dark and gritty. They're not supposed to be funny. Sometimes maybe there's a little joke. Batman maybe makes a little joke to Superman. But when you do it rarely, when it's not common, it means more, right? Look at the end of The Killing Joke, where the Joker and Batman laugh. It's so famous for that scene. But now in these movies, there's like a joke every few minutes. Now Batman, he's making jokes. He's like Captain America. He's like this dumbass who they're, you're not laughing with him. You're laughing at him. And since when is Batman, this Joker that, we already have the Joker. Why do we have another stupid comedian on the team making jokes? Yeah, I just don't like it. I don't like seeing all these jokes in my superhero movies. Maybe you do. I don't. This is my list. And I think a lot of people agree with me. The Justice League movie, it felt out. It felt odd because it was such a different movie than the expanded universe with Batman vs. Superman, the introduction to the expanded universe. It's so different than the direction they started putting out that it just doesn't fit. It feels like a different director. And it's the same director, but they, at the end, there's a new director. But the new director so prominently felt because he just made it so different with all these jokes. I don't want to see lots of jokes in my action movies. And, the reason they do it is because they're trying to make it an experience everybody can enjoy. And that's a problem too, and I'll get into that in another video. Alright, some of you might not like this one, but it needs to be said. The problem with Hollywood movies today is this preoccupation with being PC, right? So let me explain. This preoccupation with being PC, what it does to the movie is that it's rewriting history. Now, if the movie is not based on true story and it's supposed to be a different or a reimagining, that's okay, I suppose. I'll give it a pass. But when you make a movie that's based on a true story and you put in today's beliefs and social norms and PC outlook and you base it on a true story, it's not real anymore. It's not really based on a true story. It's totally fake. You look at, for example, Gone with the Wind. It's such a famous movie. It captured the time of the American Civil War, whether or not it was PC or maybe it had some racism and maybe some things about it would be considered racist today. That was the times. They weren't doing it to be malicious. That was just the way it was, right? Even past presidents have owned slaves. It's like, you can't deny this. This is a sign of the times. That's the way it was back then. It didn't make you a bad person. That's just the way it was. Maybe by today's standards, it makes you a bad person, but back then it didn't. Ghostbusters. They want to put more women's movies and women's lead roles in movies. No problem. Do that. I just watched a really good movie recently, Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day is the main characters are women. The main characters are women. There's one guy who's a main character on it, but other than that, it's about a woman. It's a movie for women, pretty much. Another one is It Follows. Main character is a woman. Great movies. Bridesmaids. Almost the whole cast is women. Great movies. When you make a movie just for the sake of making a movie for women, or hey, here, you guys need to like women more, and you make Ghostbusters, it becomes a catastrophe. You can't have this obsession with PC, right? People in Hollywood are just so afraid of offending people or getting people upset that they're walking on eggshells, and you can tell with the movie. That's why some of the best movies today are indie movies. They don't care about being PC. They don't care about offending people because there's always going to be a group or a hardcore audience that wants to see this movie. And what are movies today? Are they made just to make money, or are they made for movie lovers? I don't know today. I don't think that they're made for movie fans or movie goers, people that love movies. They're just made to try to bring in as much money as possible. And that's a problem. And the last and final problem, unoriginality. You all know, right? I hope so. Think about the biggest money-making movies this year. Chances are that movie is either a sequel, a prequel, an origin story, based on a comic, based on a book, right? Or it's just a plain reboot remake. Because nobody wants to try to take a chance on something original anymore. And you might say this isn't a problem. People are going to the movies more. Movies are bigger and flashier and bigger budgets than ever before. What's the problem? The problem is that eventually they're not gonna want to watch this anymore, right? You look at past fads, Twilight, the vampire fad. Do people want to watch vampire movies today? No, I think the people are pretty tired of them. And right now, superhero movies are the big fad. The superhero movies are making tons of money. If you make a superhero movie based on something like a comic or a past movie, you're probably going to make a ton of money. But eventually, we're going to come a time when people don't want to watch this anymore. And then what do you have? When you run out, or when your idea becomes stale, you have to rely on something else. But people are going to be, they're so conditioned to the sequels and prequels, they're not going to want to watch the new movies. I'm a big wrestling fan, right? So I'm going to use this as an example. In WWE today, you guys all remember WWE, WWF. Today, whenever there's a big WrestleMania year, they rely on bringing back old talent, the talent that you used to love from the 90s or the 80s, the nostalgia acts. And that's fine. But what's going to happen when the nostalgia acts, pass away or they're too old to wrestle? What are you going to have? You're going to have these young talents, or maybe by now they're probably, middle-aged, and they never became famous because you were so busy pushing the nostalgia acts that you never gave these guys a chance to shine, and now, why do you want to watch them? You don't know who are these guys, right? Same thing with Hollywood. If you're always bringing back the nostalgia acts, the old movies from the 80s, the old TV shows, the old cartoons from the 80s, right? Like Transformers, Ninja Turtles, right? The old stuff from years gone. What do you have once people get tired of it? What do you have when the stories of the comics and the reboots and the sequels, what happens when they're all played out? What are you going to do? Are you then going to start being original? By then, people might not even give originality a chance anymore. You have to start thinking of the future. You have to stop thinking, how much money can I make? Think of the future. Start coming up with new ideas. Back in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, people weren't sequeling everything and prequeling everything and remaking everything. They had original stories. That's why people still look fondly on those days, because those were times of originality. People weren't afraid of failing. That's the thing. If you want to succeed at something, you can't be afraid to fail. Or you have to at least think, I could fail. That's, big risk, big reward. Little risk, little reward. Right? Maybe you guys don't see that now, but it's going to happen. Right? So, maybe you disagree with some of my points. These are real problems. It's not me being picky. I love Hollywood. When I think of my happiest memories of movies, it's a Hollywood movie. When I think of the maybe greatest movies I've ever seen, chances are it's a Hollywood movie. I love indie movies, but they've never really made my top list for greatest movies ever made. Maybe one or two of them. Generally, it's Hollywood. I love Hollywood. I've put so much money into Hollywood. I've bought so many movies. I've gone to the movies so much, but I don't do it anymore because I don't want to support this. I don't like the way it is right now. Sometimes people invite me to the movies and I say, no, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to watch that. And it's kind of a drag. It makes me seem cheap, but it's not that I'm cheap. I don't want to support it. I'm trying to take a stand by not watching. I don't want movies to be the way that they are now. The other night I was watching Fast and the Furious 8. Oh yeah, lots of special effects, explosions and whatever, but I was falling asleep because it doesn't impress me. I have no reason to watch this stuff. If I want to see great special effects and visuals, I can play a video game. Video games are so far beyond movies, I think. Special effects, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. There are movies that, special effects are a big part of it, like Doctor Strange. I'll bring that up again. You could not film that by making props of all that stuff. It would be too dangerous. Like, they have buildings falling into each other and all that jazz. You need to CGI that stuff. Anyways, I'm rambling. I'll save some of that for another video. So yeah, those are my 5 big complaints, 6 technically, of my biggest complaints of what's wrong with Hollywood today, and yeah.